Thank you, Representative McLaughlin. The House will come to order. Please join Representative McCormick in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. She will please call the roll.
Representatives Amabile, Bacon, on the screen. Representative Bacon. Oh. Baisley, Benavidez,
Here.
Burnett,
Here.
Byrd, Bockenfeld, Basenecker, Bradfield, Caraveo, Carver. She's here. Catlin, Cutter, Doherty. She's here. Duran. She's here too. Esgar. Exum.
Morning, sir.
Froelich. Geithner.
Here.
Gonzalez Gutierrez.
Here.
Gray. Representative Gray. Is excused. Hanks. Herod. Holtorf. Hooten.
Here.
Judah.
Here.
Kennedy. Kip. Larson.
Here.
Lindsay. Wantine. Luck. Lynch. McCluskey. McCormick. McKean. I think so. Is that right? McLaughlin. Michael Sinjane. 81. Mullica. Neville.
Here.
Ortiz.
Here.
Pelton. Pico.
Here.
Ransom. Rich. Ricks.
Here.
Roberts. Sandridge.
Here.
Sirota. Snyder. She's here. Soper. Sullivan.
Here.
There she is. Titone. Valdez A.
Here.
Valdez D. Van Beber. Van Winkle.
Here.
Weissman. Will. Williams.
Here.
Woodrow. Woog. Young. Mr. Speaker.
Sixty-four present, one excused. We have a quorum. Representative McCormick.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that the Journal of Wednesday, February 16th, be approved as corrected by our chief clerk.
Members, you have heard the motion that the journal be approved as corrected by the chief clerk. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no.
No. Absolutely not.
As we look to the gallery, everyone knows it. The ayes have it. The motion's approved. Announcements and introductions. Representative Harrod.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, we had our Appropriations Committee this morning, and we had some great jokes, really good jokes, but there was one joke that took the cake. Representative Pico, are you there? Yeah, will you come on screen and tell your amazing joke? Representative Pico.
Hold on, Representative Pico. All right, go ahead, Representative Pico. We're all waiting.
Okay, well, most of you know that I was involved in space operations for a while.
Oh, wait,
Before
I'm
that,
sorry, Representative Pico. Members,
NASA and the other space systems do not-
you're going to want to hear this joke from Representative Pico.
Please.
1 second.
Please direct your attention.
Representative,
To the wall.
members. Thank you.
Representative Pico.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Most of you know I was involved in space operations for a while, and one of the things that came up was we don't use Microsoft products on space systems and space station or other vehicles because the astronauts cannot open windows in space.
You know, I also told a joke, Representative Harrod. Representative Harrod.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We also appreciated a joke from the other side of the aisle. Representative Pico won his joke, and it wasn't the only thing that he won this morning. He actually got his bill out of appropriations, and he was the only member on the bill. So as you probably know, that's quite the feat. So good work on that, too. And the other winner, so that I could actually come back to the well and speak ever again, is Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, would you like to tell your joke?
Oh my gosh, thanks so much, Representative Harrod. That means so much to me. Knock, knock. Tank. You're welcome. All right, further announcements and introductions. Representative McCormick.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Just wanted everyone to know that we will not be meeting in Ag, Livestock, and Water Committee today. Thanks.
Representative Byrd.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And you know, members, I live for Thursdays because if it's Thursday, it is finance. I know, it's a great day. So upon adjournment in House Committee Room 112, we will be hearing 3 bills. Today we'll hear House Bill 1005, House Bill 1018, and House Bill 1048. We will see you there.
Thank you, Representative Byrd. Representative McLaughlin.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Nothing funny in education today, but really great bills that should change the world. We're having House Bill 221101 and House Bill 221070, and you will be amazed at the testimony today. So thank you.
Thank you, Representative McLaughlin. Representative Kennedy.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members of House State Civic, Military, and Veterans Affairs, we will be meeting upon adjournment in LSBA to hear House Bill 1081.
Very good. Representative Pelton, and Representative Lynch, and Representative Van Bever, and Representative Holtorf, and Representative Luck. Representative Pelton.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd just like everyone to know that Christian Home Educators of Colorado are in the building today. It's Meet Your Legislator Day. There are a lot of kids in the building and parents, and the Executive Director, Sean Craig, is here. So if you see some of your kids from your district, say hi and get to know them. They're good kids. And so just so people know, my wife and I were homeschoolers, and our youngest daughter is now homeschooling their kids. So it's a great lifestyle and a great way to raise your kids.
That's great. Thank you, Representative Pelton. Representative Lynch.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. A part of that group is Classical Conversations from Loveland and Berthoud, so I wanted to welcome you guys to the gallery and look forward to showing you around a little bit today. Thank you, guys.
Great.
I just want to make sure I also thank the homeschoolers for being here today on Meet Your Legislator Day. I've always said the most important, the most impactful, the most central individual or individuals that can create meaning, learning, love for their children always begins at home. That is the first place we teach our children. And hopefully, it's always the place where we are teaching our children. I just want to thank Craig and his lovely family, and the most important person that I met today was Hannah. She is 11 years old, and I'm not sure she's in the room. Hannah, are you in here? She may not be. Yep. There she is. She just got to go to Washington, D.C., the nation's capital. So, Hannah, this is to you. I'm glad that you are here today helping teach us educators as much as we teach you, helping teach us legislators as much as you think we're teaching you.
Representative Holtorf.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And for all you kids out there and your parents that are in the homeschooling arena, I commend you for standing up for what you believe in. As you know, Christianity around the world is under attack. And you stand for what you believe in your faith and your belief in Christ, and the fact that you want your children to learn these beliefs despite the many secular ideas that want to cancel that out. So I commend you, I stand with you in solidarity, and I want to do everything I can in this chamber to support your beliefs, as well as the beliefs of anybody else. Thank you.
Okay, welcome everybody. Thanks for being here. Further announcements and introductions. Representative Roberts.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. House Business Affairs and Labor Committee members, we have a committee hearing this afternoon at 1:30. We have a very busy day. We have two sunset hearings, the Board of Real Estate Appraisers and the Workers' Compensation Finding Authority. Then we have 7 bills in this order: 1112, 1098, 1017, 1109, 1053, 1039, 1135. 1:30 for Business Affairs and Labor. Thanks.
Representative Weissman.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It sounds like Business Affairs has dethroned Judiciary as having had the toughest calendar yet on the session. I have spoken with the Majority Leader and have received permission to be excused tomorrow, Friday the 18th. Thank you.
So approved. Representative D. Valdez and Majority Leader Escar.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And if Representative Luck and Representative Holtorf would like to join us down in the well, this is the best day at the Capitol every single year. And no, it's not Chips and Salsa Day like some of you think. It's actually Southern Colorado Day, and we have a tribute, and we'd like it to be read at length.
Mr. Schiebel.
State of Colorado. The Senate and House of Representatives convened in the 73rd General Assembly hereby extend a heartfelt recognition for Southern Colorado Day. The members of the Colorado General Assembly are proud to celebrate Southern Colorado Day at the Capitol. Alamosa, Baca, Bent, Conejos, Costilla, Crowley, Custer, Fremont, Huerfano, Kiowa, Las Animas, Mineral, Otero, Prowers, Pueblo, Rio Grande, and Saguache counties are vital for Colorado's continued success. This region is home to many of Colorado's premier attractions, such as Fisher's Peak State Park, Lake Pueblo State Park, Colorado's only historic Arkansas Riverwalk, the Colorado State Fair, and the annual Pueblo Chili and Frijoles Festival. It also houses the oldest continuous water right in the state, the People's Ditch of San Luis, located in Costilla County and established in 1852. Thanks to the unique climate, southern Colorado blesses every corner of the state with Pueblo chili, Rocky Ford cantaloupes, San Luis Valley potatoes, pinto beans, beef, and much more. Known as the home of heroes, Pueblo is the melting pot of Colorado due to our rich immigrant community who to this day share their food and culture throughout the state. Colorado's Western spirit and history live on thanks to the resilience of Southern Coloradans, and we thank them today and every day for the contributions they make throughout the state. On request of Senators Leroy Garcia and Cleve Simpson and Representatives Danae Esgar, Donald Valdez, Richard Holtorf, and Stephanie Luck, given the 17th day of February 2022, State Capitol, Denver, Colorado, signed Leroy M. Garcia, President of the Senate, and Alec Garnett, Speaker of the House.
Thank you, Mr. Schiebel. Majority Leader Escar.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And members, thank you for your attention. You can sit. We're going to just say a few words as well. But I half joke, right? It's chips and salsa day, and we do this every year. But it's also to really help understand there's a lot more information in those bags than just your chips and salsa. I hope you take some time to take a look at it. There's a lot that part of the state has to offer. And being Pueblo born and raised for generations of my family, I cannot be more proud than to stand here on Southern Colorado Day. And also, as a member of the original Best Leadership Pueblo Class of 2010, I want to thank the Leadership Pueblo Class of 22, who's here with us today as well, joining us and taking time to really learn about your state government and how we work and sometimes how we may not work. But to observe us all today and ask many questions later on, I just can't thank you all enough for being here. Members, thank you for your support always of Southern Colorado, of the Colorado State Fair, which will always stay in Pueblo, Mr. Speaker, and everything else that happens in Southern Colorado. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Madam Majority Leader. Representative D. Valdez.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you, members. But also, it is an honor to serve for Southern Colorado. And with us, we also have Adams State University's two students, Jose and Courtney, with us. Also, Dr. Robinson and Dr. Mestis with her from Adams State. But to Pueblo leadership, thank you for being here. And to any individuals, anybody from Southern Colorado, thank you for all that you do and continue to do. And welcome to your state capital. With that, it is an honor to represent and serve. Thank you, Representative Holtorf.
Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Also, I'm not sure if they're in the gallery, but I know they're here today. There's members or students from CSU Pueblo who are also here as well. So this truly is Southern Colorado Day at the Capitol. Thank you.
That's great. Thank you all very much. And there's still time for the State Fair to move to Denver. Just joking. That was just a joke. That's a joke that goes way back with the Majority Leader and myself. Representative A. Valdez.
Good morning, everybody. The House Energy and Environment Show will be at 1:30 today. Today, we will be doing Wildfire Day, House Bill 10007, House Bill 1012, and House Bill 1011. The fun gets started at 1:30, and today, you don't have to put your boots on. We will be over in the Old State Library, room 271 at 1:30.
Further announcements and introductions. Seeing none, Mr. Schiebel, please read reports of committees of reference.
Committee on Appropriations. After consideration on the merits, the committee recommends the following. House Bill 1024 be amended as followed and as so amended be referred to the Committee of the Whole of favorable recommendation. House Bill 1043 be amended as followed and as so amended be referred to the Committee of the Whole of favorable recommendation. House Bill 1060 be amended as followed and as so amended be referred to the Committee of the Whole of favorable recommendation. House Bill 1072 be referred to the Committee of the Whole of favorable recommendation. Senate Bill 13 be referred to the Committee of the Whole of favorable recommendation. Committee on Business Affairs and Labor. After consideration on the merits, the committee recommends the following. House Bill 1001 be amended as followed and as so amended be referred to the Committee on Finance with favorable recommendation. House Bill 1134 be postponed indefinitely. Committee on Education. After consideration on the merits, the committee recommends the following. House Bill 1049 be amended as followed and as so amended be referred to the Committee of the Whole of favorable recommendation. Committee on Education. House Bill 1110 be referred to the Committee of the Whole of favorable recommendation. Committee on Health and Insurance. After consideration on the merits, the committee recommends the following. House Bill 1076 be referred to the Committee of the Whole of favorable recommendation. House Bill 1094 be amended as followed and as so amended be referred to the Committee on Appropriations with favorable recommendation. House Bill 1115 be amended as followed and as so amended be referred to the Committee on Appropriations with favorable recommendation. Committee on Transportation and Local Government, after consideration on the merits, the committee recommends the following: House Bill 1037 be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation. House Bill 1051 be referred to the Committee on be referred favorably to the Committee on Finance. House Bill 1104 be amended as followed, and as so amended be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation.
Thank you, Mr. Schiebel. Majority Leader Esker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that the following bills be made special orders on February 17th at 10:23 a.m. Senate Bill 13, House Bill 1046, Senate Bill 17, House Bill 1090, House Bill 1034, House Bill 1089, House Bill 1044.
Thank you, Madam Majority Leader. The following bills will be made special orders at 10:23 on February 17th. Representative Kennedy. Members, you have heard the motion. Seeing no objection, Representative Kennedy will take the chair.
The committee will come to order. With your unanimous consent, the bills will be read by title unless there's a request for reading a bill at length. Committee reports are printed and in your bill folders. Floor amendments will be shown on the screen and on your iPads. Bills will be laid over upon the motion of the Majority Leader, and the coat rule is relaxed. Mr. Schiebel, please read the title to Senate Bill 13.
Senate Bill 13 by Senators Fenberg and Holbert, also Representatives Garnett and McKean, concerning requirements for boards and commissions and in connection therewith making an appropriation.
Speaker Garnett.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I move Senate Bill 13 and the Appropriations Committee report. No committee report. Just move Senate Bill 13.
To the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, this is a bill that's required by us for good reason. We need to pass this bill as soon as possible. That's one of the reasons we're in special orders today, because there's so many people moving to the state. We received a new congressional district. We have Congressional District 8. There are many changes to boards and commissions that must adjust to that change, like the Board of Regents, for example, for the University of Colorado system. And so this bill puts that all in place, and I would urge an aye vote.
Minority Leader McKean.
Thank you very much. Everything that the speaker said, he has this really, really fancy green binder, and I don't have one of those. I think that's probably because like the party in control of the chamber gets nice stuff, and we get, I mean, these are nice, but we really do need to get this bill done. We've got to put in place what we have to do for regents, but we have to get it done in time that it can be streamlined so we can get it on the ballot. So as well, urge an aye vote for this.
Speaker Garnett.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move L10 to Senate Bill 13 and ask for it to be displayed.
To the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, this is an amendment that was actually caught by our staff, Chris Grant, who I want to give a shout out to. He's right over here. He works with both the majority and the minority staff on appointments. And what we have realized is over time, there can be vacancies on many of these boards that no one ever knows about. They can go years without being filled because literally no one knows about it. So this is just a simple amendment to help streamline the process and make sure either the board or the state agency or staff from the state agency is notifying the appointing entity that there is a vacancy. So I would urge an aye vote, and I want to again thank Chris Grant for all of his hard work on appointments, but also on putting this in place.
Technically, the applause is not in order, but we'll allow it this one time. Is there further discussion on the amendment? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of Amendment L10. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the amendment is adopted. Speaker Garnett.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move L11 and ask for it to be displayed.
To the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, this is just a technical amendment that was brought to us by the drafter, and I would urge an aye vote.
Is there further discussion on the amendment? Representative Larson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. For those of us up on the wall, we're unable to see the amendment. I was wondering if we could fix that situation. There could be a display or something.
Absolutely. Representative Larson, would you like to see that before voting on the amendment today or just for the future?
Before voting on the amendment today.
Okay, let's hang on for 1 second. Majority Leader Escar.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. For those of you participating online, all amendments are immediately available in the box.
And this is Reno.
We'll just hold on for one more minute here.
I know. I will. Kit Kat.
Oh, your Megan's right over here.
Got it. You don't got it. Got it.
So good. It's not in my folder. Look how big these rings are, though.
I don't have the binder though.
So like,
I mean, if we're gonna do bills together.
Okay, it looks like folks have had a minute to look at the amendment that is on display. I do not currently see the faces on the screen, so I will ask for a little help from our staff if anyone is looking to be recognized to discuss. This is why we do ask you, if you're participating remotely, to use the box folders. Typically, the chief clerk is telling me no one's asking to be recognized. So with that, we will ask, is there any further discussion on Amendment L11? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of Amendment L11. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. The ayes have it. The amendment is adopted. To the bill. Is there further discussion? Seeing no further discussion, the question before us is the passage of Senate Bill 13 as amended. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the bill passes. Mr. Schiebel, please read the title of the House Bill 1046.
House Bill 1046 by Representatives McLaughlin and Catlin, also Senator Winter, concerning authority for local governments to designate highway under their jurisdiction for over snow use only.
Representative McLaughlin.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Chair, I always forget who's back behind there. I move House Bill 221046 on second reading with the education report, please.
Representative McLaughlin, I believe it's the Transportation and Local Government Report?
It was. I'm so used to being on the other side. It is transportation and local government. My apologies.
No problem. We are to the committee report. Is there further discussion? Representative McLaughlin.
Yes, we added one amendment on to clarify that the snowmobilers were keeping the laws that were already before them, and we're not changing anything that they could do on these county roads.
Okay, seeing no further discussion, the question before us is the adoption of the Transportation Local Government Committee report. All those in favor say aye.
Aye. You do.
All opposed say no. The ayes have it, and the committee report is adopted. To the bill, Representative McLaughlin.
Yes, I'd like to move Amendment 003 to House Bill 221046, please. And display it, please.
To the amendment, actually, one more moment. I do want to make one clarification for those members participating remotely. I had a misunderstanding of the rule. Just to clarify what the rule we all adopted says, if you are participating remotely and you are the bill sponsor, you are entitled to participate. If you are not the bill sponsor, the rules do not actually allow participation. If any of you are looking for login information for your box folders, please contact Ledge Council staff or the chief clerk, and they will help get you set up on box. Apologies, Representative McLaughlin. To Amendment L3.
Yes, this is another clarification amendment to say what kind of vehicles can cross over these county roads in the winter.
Is there further discussion? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of Amendment L3. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the amendment is adopted. We're back to the bill. Representative Catlin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's an honor to serve with you.
Honor to serve with you as well.
Thank you. Members, this is a bill that came to us from the people that are affected by it. Out in resort communities particularly, there are roads that don't get plowed, and that's been the way it's been for a long, long time. What this bill is going to do is allow those counties the codification that they don't have to plow those roads, particularly if there are no houses there, and it allows more access back to public lands via those roadways for snowmobiles, cross-country skiing, snowshoeing. If you're man enough to snowshoe, then you can try that. But honestly, this is the kind of bill that I like to carry because it was brought together by the counties. CCI brought it to us and asked us to carry this bill, and more particularly, it's in my district is where some of the requests were made. This is a good bill. Vote yes.
Representative McLaughlin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, a lot of, during the pandemic, a lot of people were using these rural roads and accessing public lands, and there was always a confusion as to who could go on the roads, who couldn't go on the roads. So this bill leaves it up to every county, especially, it's really important in our rural counties. And these roads are just, you don't even recognize them as roads in the winter, but it gives people permission, and the counties get to decide when they're open, how they're open, and who gets to use them, and they work together. So completely permissive.
Is there further discussion? Seeing none, the question before us is the passage of House Bill 1046 as amended. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the bill passes. Mr. Schiebel, please read the title of the House Bill, Senate Bill 17.
Senate Bill 17 by Senators Scott and Zenzinger, also Representatives Basenecker and Catlin, concerning the determination that a load of fluid milk products hauled by a vehicle is not a divisible load under the vehicle weight limits permitted by law.
Representative Basenecker.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's an honor to serve with you.
And with you.
I'd like to move Senate Bill 2217. I don't believe there is a committee report.
Correct. To the bill. Representative Basenecker.
Thank you. And before you say, how dare he move this bill in front of the cow, it's important to note that this is a milk bill. And so we're not going to skim over this thing. We're going to give it our whole effort. Just want to set the bar where it needs to be. And we're not going to camouflage anything either. Okay. We thought about why we should not run this bill, but at the end of the day, we really lactose reasons. And we feel like we've heard all of your concerns. And I will make a significant donation where it's appropriate for those terrible jokes. In all seriousness, this bill aligns Colorado with the broader available federal exceptions by requiring rules which allow dairy trucks to apply for the federal waivers and designates dairy in statute as non-divisible. It is a seemingly simple fix to a problem that affects folks across our state, rural Colorado, and I think it's an easy fix that we can do to make sure that our truckers and our dairy farmers have what they need in statute in order to do business like they should be able to do.
Representative Catlin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm not nearly as glib as my co-prime. So I'm just going to tell you that out in the country where they do produce the milk that you and I drink, this is a bill that will help. This will allow milk trucks to go to the milk dairies, pick up the load, and not be worried about being overloaded to the point they have to pull over and split the load, waiting for hours sometimes for that product to go bad. I could have said, you know, we like collaboration, but you don't like collaborate, I'm sure. So anyway, this is one of those bills that was asked for. Again, these are the kind of things that I think we should be looking at. This is a good bill. Vote yes.
Representative Pelton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And, you know, we all see bills that come before this chamber and it really curdles our milk, but this is a bill that just really makes a lot of sense out in rural Colorado. Morgan County, one of the counties I represent, is a huge milk producer, and Dairy Farmers of America have trucks out there, tractors, triple axle, trailers, 4 axles. This is a very good bill because they're already spreading the load out, so per axle, they're not overloaded. This just makes the total vehicle weight work. So I support this bill totally.
Is there further discussion? Representative Titone.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to lay all the cards on the table, just one. But case in point, no need to weigh in, but scream yes for this bill.
We have ourselves a pun war, ladies and gentlemen. Representative Soper.
Thank you. You know, I just had to weigh in that if there's any more puns, I feel like we're going to get butter.
Seeing no further discussion, the question before us is the passage of House Bill 1017. Senate Bill 17. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. Senate Bill 17 passes. Mr. Schiebel, please read the title. Let me make sure the sponsors are near. We have at least one of them. Mr. Schiebel, please read the title to House Bill 1090.
House Bill 1090 by Representatives Ransom and Young, also Senators Buckner and Smallwood, concerning allowing a child reasonable independence to engage in activities without finding that the child is abused or neglected.
Representative Ransom.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move House Bill 1090. There is no committee report.
To the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Those of you that were here 2 years ago will probably remember voting yes on a very similar bill because it passed unanimously out of the House 2 years ago, went over to the Senate, and then when we had to close the legislature for a couple of months, the bill was one of the sad bills that had to be PI'd over in the Senate. We are back in a bipartisan manner once again to bring forth the bill of reasonable independence for children. What this bill does is add a definition, it tightens up the definition of neglect into the code, which really gives parents that love their children and take care of their children the ability to judge how mature that child is, and if they are capable with maybe siblings or friends or by themselves, but the parents know what that child can do. It actually gives them options to travel to and from school, whether they walk or ride their bike, whether they can walk to nearby stores or a park, play outside, front yard or backyard, and remain at home in places or other locations that a parent, guardian, or legal custodian would consider safe for the child. So it allows parents to make decisions that we all probably take for granted. I know many of us that grew up back in the olden days do take that for granted. And I love this bill. Again, it passed unanimously out of the House. We had no opposition in committee. It passed unanimously in the Public Health Committee last week, and I urge an aye vote on the bill.
Representative Young.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm going to talk a little bit about play, and this is something that all of us share in common. I want you to think about back to your childhood and the things that you enjoyed playing as a child. I liked playing out in the snow, and I used to like to ride my bike around the block and ice skate in the park, which was over a block away. I ended up with a broken arm ice skating, and I had quite a few scrapes riding my bike. My parent was never there, and things always worked out well. So why is play so important for children? Children develop their imagination, they develop their sense of communication and problem solving with peers through play. So what we have seen as a result of an increasing constriction on parents feeling like they are fearful for allowing their children to be independent, they're not allowing them to do this very important and critical play. We have also had another unintended consequence by having a restricted idea of what children can do independently. And it has resulted in an increase, not only here in Colorado, but in the nation, on people being involved in the system to investigate abuse. And in Colorado, as far as lack of supervision is concerned, in 2019, our cases were 82% found unsubstantiated. So we are not only putting families through trauma, we are restricting what families feel like they can do, and we're also costing taxpayers money through these unfounded and unsubstantiated allegations. Finally, we know that we need to look at this from an equity piece, since we know that low-income families and families of color are overrepresented in those who are investigated. An important bill. I urge an aye vote.
Representative Roberts.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to the bill sponsors for this bill and your work on this. And I was happy to support this bill 2 years ago, and I appreciate the intent. I have a question, though, because there's one new addition to this bill from the bill 2 years ago, and it's on page 2, line 19, that says a child can remain in a home or other location that a reasonable and prudent parent would consider safe for the child. That conceivably adds any business in Colorado or any other organization's property to the list. Which means, I assume, that if a child were left there, that business would then be assuming a legal responsibility for the child. And I'm wondering of your conversations with the business community or nonprofit community or anybody who owns property, frankly, about that legal liability.
Representative Ransom.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for the question. What I will say is that the reason that we added that line to the bill is because in stakeholding, we were told that there were actually families that were homeless that might leave a child, and it might be a 10 or 12 or 14-year-old, but they might be in a hotel room, in a trailer, at grandma's house. It might not be in a house, and we didn't want to limit where a prudent parent making a decision based on the child's ability to take care of themselves to make that choice. So again, because we did find out that homeless families, for example, are overrepresented in the system. And because we're trying to make sure that people know you can be a good parent if you're 18 or 16 or 42. You can be a really good parent if you're poor. You can be a really good parent if you're single. Those are not reasons to be investigated or having a DNR report placed against the parent. So that is why that line is there. I don't believe we actually went out and talked to businesses on the liability piece, but this bill was heavily stakeholdered through the counties and through the folks that do the investigations, and we did not hear anything that would have been problematic with that point.
Representative Luck.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Unlike the previous bill, this one is not at all cheesy, and so I urge an aye vote.
Representative Gray.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm not going to take a 21C on this bill, but I will say that I think it's a great idea and it's a great bill. And right now, my children are a part of a pack of 5 children who are actively roaming the halls of this building right now, and I don't know where they are. There were several other children because the Adams Hill School District is off today. But I will tell you, I practice what I preach in this respect and have to vote yes on this bill. And thank you all for being kind to them when you see them, because when you just see a group of unsupervised children wandering around, 2/5 of them are mine. And please vote yes.
Representative Ransom.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Representative, for making that point. As a prudent parent, I totally support your decision to know your children, know what their abilities and capabilities are, and recognize that most likely they know how to find you if they need to very quickly. And I support your decision to let your children be in the same building as your workplace is.
Representative Will.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's an honor to serve with you.
And with you.
I want to come up and support this bill, and it hasn't been mentioned, it isn't really in the bill, but in my childhood and then in rural Colorado, this comes up. People like, the kid wants to be a bull rider. Let them be a bull rider. They want to ride broncs. Let them ride broncs. They can do it. And this bill clarifies that. I love the fact that kids can be independent, think independently. And mom and dad might not want them riding bulls, but that's what they want to do. And I love this bill, so thank you for bringing it forward, Bill Fort. Sponsors.
Representative Holtorf.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and very much my colleague from the Western Slope. I really like this bill. We all know there's no horseplay in the house, but with this bill, kids can go outside. They can go outdoors, enjoy exercise, outdoor activities with other children, and the parents will not have the fear of some type of retribution from social services or human services. This clears up a gray area, as I understand it. Without this type of legislation, children are forced to stay in the house. They're forced to live more of a sedentary lifestyle, which leads to overweight, children, and child obesity issues. If you go outside, you get to go outdoors. You get to play with your peers outdoors. You learn so many things when you're outside with other peers that you can't learn locked in your house. So I'm a strong supporter of this bill. I'm glad the bill sponsors brought this bill, and very much like my colleague from the Western Slope, when I was a kid growing up and you went to the county fair or you went to a rodeo, you got to run around and see and be around livestock and things without anybody worrying about you as long as you stayed within that fairground complex. And people took care of those kids. If they weren't supposed to be somewhere, they ran them off and told them to go back over here. But you could watch the bull riding, you could watch the bronc riding, you could do all kinds of things. And that's a part of rural Colorado that I don't ever want to lose. So I stand in solidarity with my representative from, I believe it's House District 57, and I'm really excited about this type of legislation.
Representative Ransom.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And one more point that I just want to make. When I spoke in committee to introduce the bill, one of the things I mentioned is that I grew up a long time ago, and my mom and dad, they knew what my sisters and brother and I were capable of doing on our own and what we weren't. But one of the things we used to do is go catch pollywogs at the creek that was up behind the school. And that is all paved over now with homes that no longer exist, because I've been back to visit since. But those are some of the memories that I have growing up of getting an old coffee can and going down and catching pollywogs. And those are the types of things that we want kids to be able to do. And if their parents know that it's safe and know that they're comfortable letting them do it and the child is capable of it. So I just thought I'd also mention that this is a bill that brings back pollywog memories for me, and I'm really glad that we had the opportunity to bring it, and I do ask for an aye vote on the bill.
Seeing no further discussion, or Representative Young, I apologize, did you want to say more? Okay. Seeing no further discussion, the question before us is the passage of House Bill 1090. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the bill passes. Mr. Schiebel, please read the title to House Bill 1034.
House Bill 1034 by Representatives Byrd and Sandridge, also Senators Garcia and Priola, concerning the administration of retirement plans administered by the Fire and Police Pension Association and in connection therewith, merging the statewide defined benefit plan, the statewide hybrid plan, and the Social Security supplemental plan into a single new statewide retirement plan.
Just me. Where's Sandridge? Is he not here?
Well, I'm not sure. Do you want to wait?
Oh, he's on the wall.
Representative Byrd.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move House Bill 22-1031.
1034?
Oh, 1034, yes.
So moved. Representative Byrd.
Thank you again, Mr. Chair. So this bill is based upon the recommendations of a task force convened by the Colorado Fire and Police Pension Association to ensure the long-term financial health and viability of the plans they administer and to make important benefit adjustments. Specifically, the bill will do 4 general things. It merges the statewide defined benefit plan, the statewide hybrid plan, and the Social Security supplemental plan into a newly created statewide retirement plan. Number 2, this bill will also create a one-time benefit adjustment for members of the hybrid plan to ensure equity for its membership upon the hybrid plan's merger with the statewide defined benefit plan. It implements an increase in the minimum contribution required of both employees and employers, and enables members of the hybrid plan to take advantage of the Rule of 80. Put together, all of these changes are forward-thinking with the intent of ensuring that each retirement plan administered on behalf of our public safety professionals is healthy, stable, well-managed, and able to provide meaningful benefits. I urge a yes vote.
Representative Sandridge.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to add that in the long run, this bill adds to the longevity and efficiency to this retirement plan. This retirement plan is doing pretty well right now. We want to make sure it continues to do pretty well and stays efficient and stays healthy for the long term. Lastly, I just want to add, I want to thank Representative Byrd for all her work on this. She's a true champion of this plan and really all the retirements we deal with on this board. So I want to thank her again and thank her for all of her hard work. Thank you.
Is there further discussion? Seeing none, the question before us is the passage of House Bill 1034. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. No. The ayes have it. House Bill 1034 passes. Mr. Schiebel, please read the title to House Bill 1089.
House Bill 1089 by Representative Woodrow, also Senator Winter, concerning a requirement that transportation network companies provide insurance to protect individuals from damages caused by uninsured motorists.
Representative Woodrow.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It is an honor to serve with you.
It's an honor to serve with you.
Good morning, colleagues. Happy Thursday. I'm honored and excited to stand before you on House Bill 22-1089, a wonderful bill that requires transportation network companies to carry uninsured, underinsured motorist coverage. But before I tell you about it, I'd like to first move the Judiciary Committee report and the bill.
So move to the Judiciary report.
Okay, folks, we had an excellent discussion and debate in the ring of fire that is the House Judiciary Committee. We had some amendments that were approved clarifying when the insurance coverage will kick in. Always a pleasure to have a committee of esteemed colleagues improve the bill. With that, I move the Judiciary Committee report and ask for an aye vote.
Is there further discussion on the Judiciary Committee report? Representative Soper.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In the committee report, one thing that I just want to be clear, this changed quite a bit, and is this really the vast majority of the bill now?
Representative Woodrow.
Thank you, Representative Soper. No, it's not the vast majority of the bill. What this amendment that we passed in committee does, well, we passed two. The first is it makes clear that when there are when the driver carries an uninsured motorist policy and when the transportation network carrier carries a policy, that the carrier's policy is the primary policy that will kick in, which is just a formality because the driver's policy actually has a carve-out for transportation network companies. The other amendment that we passed, what it does is it ensures that we're only talking about when a driver has been assigned to a ride and a passenger is not yet in a vehicle, and when the driver and the passenger are both in the vehicle, that this $1 million of UM/UIM coverage kicks in. So there's three phases, folks. Everyone here has taken an Uber or a Lyft. The first phase is when the driver is driving around waiting for a ride, hasn't been assigned yet. The second phase is when the driver's been assigned, but a passenger is not yet in the vehicle. And the third phase is when the driver and the passenger are both in the vehicle engaged in a ride. What the amendment 001 does is it makes clear that the UM/UIM policy that we are talking about in this bill only applies to phases 2 and 3. If anything, it was an initial drafting oversight, and we just wanted to make that clear that we're not requiring UM/UIM of $1 million when drivers are just driving around with no one in the car and they're not even engaged to pick up a ride.
Representative Soper.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Representative Woodrow. I appreciate that answer. One thing I was just really curious about is concerning phases 2 and 3, so I've been assigned a ride, someone to pick up if I'm the Uber or Lyft driver, let's say. Why is it that you would need to have the $1 million kick in? And I guess coupled with that, do any other states require this for what would be phase 2? I've been assigned a ride, and not just in phase 3.
Representative Woodrow.
Yes, Representative Soper, excellent questions. I will double check, but I believe other states do require it for phase 2 as well as phase 3. Phase 2 protects the driver while they're working. If we carve out phase 2, we're leaving the drivers at the whim, even though they are working for the transportation network company at the time and going to pick up a ride, we're leaving them unprotected. And so including phase 2 was a nod to trying to keep them protected as well. Folks, when people are hit in hit and runs and there's no coverage for them, they end up going essentially into medical bankruptcy. And no one, a passenger or a driver, should do that so long as the driver is engaged to go pick up a ride for the company at the time they're in the accident.
Thank you.
Is there further discussion on the Judiciary Committee report? Seeing none? As Representative Bockenfeld, are you waiting for the bill? Okay, very good. Seeing no further discussion, the question before us is the adoption of the Judiciary Committee report. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, no? The ayes have it. The committee report is adopted. To the bill, Representative Woodrow.
Awesome. So colleagues, House Bill 1089 is brought in response to a growing problem in our great state. Everyone here has ridden in an Uber or Lyft. No one can deny that they've transformed the transportation industry here in Colorado and in other states. But few people know or realize that if you're riding in an Uber or Lyft and you don't carry your own insurance coverage, you are not covered for your injuries in the event of a hit and run. What? Yes, it's true. As a result, there's a growing list of Coloradans who've suffered catastrophic injuries due to accidents they've suffered while using these services. Now you ask, Rep. Woodrow, do any other states require this? The answer is yes. Over 20 states, including our neighbors Utah, New Mexico, and Kansas, require ride shares to carry UIM coverage. In fact, ride shares in Colorado used to carry this coverage until March of 2020, and they still managed to thrive. And you may ask yourself, how did I get here? And you should keep listening to the talking heads. But you may also ask, Rep. Woodrow, won't this increase costs? In committee, we heard that this will add 6% of the cost to the average ride. A $10 fare becomes a $10.60 fare to ensure folks who've suffered catastrophic injuries are covered, a small price to pay. Now, before I move the bill, and in light of our ongoing effort to make everything that we do around here a little more perfect, I have 2 amendments to offer. So first, I'll move Amendment L003 and ask that it be displayed.
To the amendment.
Colleagues, L003 is a technical amendment from the PUC that makes it clear that a rideshare company need only file with the Commission 1 copy of their UIM policy, not thousands of policies, 1 for each driver. It's an efficiency amendment, and I know we all love government being more efficient. So with that, I strongly urge its adoption.
Is there further discussion on Amendment L3? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of the amendment. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. The ayes have it. Amendment L3 is adopted. Representative Woodrow, we're back to the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, colleagues. Moving right along, I'd like to move Amendment L004 to the bill and ask that it be displayed.
To the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. L004 addresses a concern raised by one of our esteemed colleagues from across the aisle that the grammar of the bill could have been more clear so as to let rideshare companies know their liability and policies can be either one insurance policy with multiple coverage or multiple policies so long as they cover both liability and UIM. It's a good amendment. We all love good grammar, and I urge a yes vote.
Is there further discussion? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of Amendment L4. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the amendment is adopted. Representative Woodrow.
All right, folks, with the bill as amended, I'd like to thank everyone for their help and their kind consideration on this. Colleagues, I urge an aye vote on House Bill 1089 to ensure our neighbors who suffer injuries in ride shares don't face such a tough road ahead. Good bill, vote yes.
Representative Bockenfeld.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. It's an honor to serve with you.
And with you.
I have a question of the sponsor. Does the same coverage that you're requesting in this bill also apply to taxi cab companies?
Representative Woodrow.
At the present time, taxis are governed by the PUC. They are professional drivers. They are not folks who've just signed up on an app to drive. They are what's the word I'm looking for? To a larger degree, they're more intensely regulated than any rideshare driver in the state. So at the present time, this does not apply to taxi cab companies. Taxi cabs have their own policies that are set by the PUC, which distinguishes them from rideshares. And, you know, we are talking about the future here. There are very few, if any, thriving taxi cab companies left, while Uber and Lyft have become to dominate the market.
Representative Bockenfeld.
Thank you very much, Representative. So what I'm hearing is that you're creating an unfair playing field between transportation companies and taxi cab companies at this time. Many of these Lyft and Uber drivers are small business owners who have made substantial personal investments, and this increases their risk and creates an unfair playing field. And I think we have to question that. You talked about 20 states that have similar regulations, but I have another question. That means 30 states don't. And why is that? Because there's a certain amount of insurance protection that the transportation companies offer to Uber and Lyft drivers, Is that correct?
Representative Woodrow.
No, it's not correct, Representative Bockenfeld. Let's be clear. The legislature delegated insurance requirements for taxis to the PUC decades ago. Taxis have professional drivers, carry commercial policies, which are entirely different animals. We're not leaving Uber and Lyft drivers out in the cold here. The amendments that we actually just ran protect the drivers. And so, no, we are not creating an unfair playing field. If anything, by not requiring medallions, we already put taxi cab drivers at a disadvantage. What we are doing is we are addressing a growing concern in our state where Uber, Lyft, and other ride shares don't cover their drivers and they don't cover their passengers in the event of hit and runs. I want to be clear, this is not when the driver of the Uber or Lyft is at fault and has liability. In that case, yes, the law already requires these companies to carry $1 million in liability coverage. This is when there's a hit and run. The rideshare company is able to decline liability, and therefore they don't have to pay out a dime right now to folks. A lot of the people that we heard from in committee, the injuries they suffered were of a nature that they actually woke up days after the accident in the emergency room or the hospital, and woke up not only to discover that they had been in an accident, they woke up to learn that they now carried hundreds of thousands of dollars in medical debt and bills. When they went to the rideshare companies and said, hey, I was in a rideshare when this happened, that's when they learned that the rideshare company was not going to compensate them for any of their injuries, because back in March of 2020, they started declining this coverage.
Representative Bockenfeld.
Thank you, Representative. As many of you know, I've been on Judiciary Committee for 3 years now, and it's predominantly a committee that is the folks who sit on the committee are attorneys. And let me tell you when I know there's a good bill coming through and when there's a bill that maybe isn't ready for prime time, is when I hear the debate of all the legal minds on that committee. And believe me, if you would have listened to this committee meeting hearing, there was a great deal of confusion amongst all those legal minds. Even though it got passed out of committee, they weren't agreeing that this bill was saying and doing what it was claiming that it was saying and doing. So I'm going to ask for a no vote. This bill's not ready for prime time. Please vote no.
Representative Carver.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And the only additional point I would make to what my colleague Rep. Bockenfeld said is that, you know, the liability and potential for harm is exactly the same whether it is from a taxi or from an Uber or Lyft. So the individual that is injured in these accidents where the driver was not at fault, but that you don't have coverage by the other motorist. The harm is the same, the medical bills are the same, and so from my point of view, if we are going to impose a statewide requirement on those that are providing rides in a commercial setting, that it should be done in an even-handed way across all those that are providing this service for pay, which is certainly Uber, Lyft, and the taxi cabs. And quite frankly, the fact that the taxi cab business model is struggling is, I think, beside the point. The harm is the same, the damage is the same, the risk to individuals is the same. Why would we not make the requirement for uninsured motorist coverage the same? And respectfully to my colleague, we have had numerous bills that occasionally reach into the PUC arena and change the rules on how the PUC operates and regulates. So that is why I was a no vote on the bill. We need to treat these competing entities offering the same type of service, treat them the same.
Representative Soper.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I did just want to ask for just a little more clarification here, because I really do want to get to a point where I'd feel comfortable and confident voting for this, because I really don't want to be in a situation where you have a rider who, by no fault of their own, or the driver, all of a sudden is hit by another car and has a lot of medical liability on account of that. However, it does trouble me that we are creating a situation where a commercial taxi driver who, by no fault of his own, could also be in a hit and run, and the passenger would still be in the same situation as if they were taking Uber or Lyft, where they would be responsible for their own medical bills. And I just want to confirm, Representative Woodrow, is that the case currently with commercial drivers?
Representative Woodrow.
If I understand the question correctly, it's why aren't we covering taxi drivers as well?
Representative Soper.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll restate the question. So if you are a rider in a taxi and no fault of the driver of the taxi, you're hit by another car, hit and run, and as the passenger, would you have to now pick up the bill if you didn't have your own auto insurance?
Representative Woodrow.
I believe that is correct. I believe that is the case, Representative Soper. This bill does not cover taxi drivers. The PUC controls and regulates the taxi cabs and that profession more carefully than they do Uber and Lyft, although Uber and Lyft is regulated somewhat by the PUC. If you want to include taxi drivers in this bill, I'm happy to run a separate bill to work on that with you. I didn't think more government regulation was something that would get your vote, but if that's what we're looking for, let's talk offline. I'm happy to do that with you. In the meantime, we're not hearing from people who've been injured in taxi cabs. We are hearing from people who've been catastrophically injured in these ride shares, and that's what we're trying to address with this bill.
Representative Soper.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Representative Woodrow. I appreciate that, except for the comment about more regulation. I think we're looking here about a protection of a Coloradan who is not looking for any harm. They're just hopping in a vehicle, thinking they're paying their fare, and all of a sudden they're injured. So what I'm seeing in this particular bill is that we are actually creating two different standards. Where a ride share, under your bill, you would have full insurance protection. But under a commercial driver being in a taxi, you wouldn't, and you would have to pick up your own medical bills at that particular time if you have a hit and run. And the argument that taxi drivers are commercial drivers and thus, because they're more regulated than Uber or Lyft as far as the drivers are concerned, don't get into accidents, that actually undermines your premise. Because what you're actually saying is that by no fault of the driver, that they're hit. It's a hit and run. So you could have the best driver in the world. We could have Mario Andretti as our driver, and by no fault of Mario Andretti, he's hit and the other car takes off and the passenger in the back is injured. He's a great commercial driver. He may be working for a great taxi company, but I in the back, who don't happen to own a car, hypothetically I actually own a couple of cars, so I don't have any auto insurance. Now I'm stuck paying that entire medical bill. We're not talking about the level in which the driver is trained. We're talking about it not being the fault of you, the passenger, it not being the fault of the driver. and having a level playing field in government. And I believe that's our duty as lawmakers. We shouldn't be picking winners and losers, and we shouldn't be structuring it in such a way that we have two different systems.
Representative Woodrow.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Representative Soper. I agree that we probably can do a better job of not having two separate systems, but that's what we have right now. Taxi drivers carry workman's comp. The number of taxis in the state are limited. There's no limit on the number of Uber or Lyft drivers. We have vehicle registration requirements for taxis, rate zone maps for taxis, stamp requirements for taxis. We have a whole litany of things that we impose on taxis that distinguish them from Uber and Lyfts. So yes, if we're going to talk about a level playing field or not picking winners and losers, again, I'm happy to have that conversation with you. That's not what we're attempting to do with this bill. What we're attempting to do with this bill is protect consumers, protect riders who get into these ride shares without having any disclosure or any knowledge that if they get catastrophically injured in a hit and run, they're going to be on their own and likely facing medical bankruptcy.
Representative Holtorf.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, bill sponsor. I stand before my colleagues to talk a little bit about unintended consequences of legislation that we feel has and addresses a single issue for the betterment of that particular single issue. Now, for 40 years, my mother ran a transportation company, serving central and western Nebraska and northeastern Colorado down the I-80, I-76 corridor. I participated in every facet of my mother's business at every level, and I watched her business for many decades. And one of the things I learned in her business was the top two line items for her expense. On the expense side of her small business, and I'm here as a defender of small business, I am passionate about that, was fuel and insurance. Now, anything that might incrementally raise costs for Colorado citizens, particularly in this year, where we have the highest inflation costs in 40 years, is a concern to me. Even though it's been stated by the sponsor that there's an incremental increase of 6% or some minimal percent, I would argue that's problematic for people like me in small business. Any increase is not okay on the expense side of small business. Ladies and gentlemen, you need to understand this fundamental principle where small business has been struggling over the last 2 years, including transportation. I watched my mother's business and her insurance go up and up and up. And lately, I've watched fuel costs, because of bad policy decisions, go up and up and up. Ladies and gentlemen, we need to understand the negative consequences of state or federal policy that negatively affects the expense side of small businesses' cash flow. Now, here's another problem I have. Many of you don't know this about me, but I'm going to share you a little secret. I represented my mother's company, and I'm not a lawyer. I represented my mother's company in administrative hearings at the PUC on many occasions. There were occasions where I was asked where I went to law school. I didn't. But I understood the challenges that small businesses have with regulated authority. Now, we've just talked today, and I can talk this at length, but I won't, ladies and gentlemen, but I can, because I have the life experience, many of them, in many areas. But when the administrative authority does not create a level playing field for the myriad of businesses in the transportation space, we have an injustice. We have a disparity. There is not equity. So we have admitted here already in testimony that the PUC has additional regulations on taxis. And my mother's company for many years felt the effects of this regulatory burden coming out of the Public Utility Commission. Now, Uber, Lyft, this new business model, and I commend the progressive nature and the new nature of moving people, this new idea. But what I don't support is the imbalance. I don't support the fact that we're going to sit here and say, well, you know, they're two different systems and oh well. Get over it, taxi companies. Get over it, traditional transportation companies. You live with your burdens. Uber is going to have this, and it's not going to be parity, or no one is going to address the PUC to try to create parity in those business models. This is a problem. Now, furthermore, I've been told by people in my caucus that this will create the potential for more litigation. Well, I will tell you, no one wants more litigation against small business. Wait a minute, let me say that again real slow so my country folk from Elba, Colorado can understand it. Nobody wants more litigation against small business. And if anybody knows where Elba, Colorado is besides me, okay, we've got two, then we're going to start our ranch tour this next summer in Elba, Colorado, and I will tell you, it will be a great tour. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think I've made my points very clear, and I am concerned with this particular legislation, and I cannot be supportive of anything that raises the costs for small business in any form, not in this year.
Representative Woodrow.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Representative Holtorf. As I said in my opening testimony, this adds 6%. 6 cents on the dollar to the cost of an Uber or Lyft ride. A $10 ride becomes a $10.60 ride. I'm not good at math, but I think 20 bucks becomes $21.20. Second point, Uber and Lyft are not small businesses. They are multi-billion, multinational conglomerates. I have the stats right here. Uber has a market cap of $69 billion. Lyft's market cap is $14 billion. These are not small businesses that we're talking about. And if you want to say that the drivers are the small businesses, well, I've said it before and I'll say it again. This bill protects the drivers. In a hit-and-run situation where a driver does not have liability and ends up injured, the driver has just as much risk as a passenger. And the driver's not covered under current law. So what this bill actually does is it protects the very people, Representative, that you want to protect. And so I come and I take issue respectfully with the idea that this bill does anything to attack small businesses. The day we start classifying Uber and Lyft as small businesses, we have rendered the definition of small business utterly meaningless.
Minority Leader McKean.
Mr. Chair, thank you so much. It's an honor to serve here in this distinguished room with you.
And with you.
Let's stop right there. Uber and Lyft, as vehicles, if you will, to allow individuals to go and participate in the gig economy and find ways to feed their families, might be big businesses, but those drivers sure as hell are small businesses. Those drivers are not like taxi cab drivers. They are doing a job in the hours they can. They are their own business. They are not the employees, and nor should they be. But I'm not really here to talk about big business. I'm here to talk about families. What I just heard was that someone is okay with raising the price of something 6%. Are you kidding me? Did anyone not take in what we talked about when we came into this building this year? How hard times are for families in this state? How difficult it is to make sure that you can have the money to pay all the bills? Did anyone miss that in the last several years we have added fees and charges to your Amazon deliveries, to your Grubhub deliveries? And those are over and above a 6% that I just think I heard someone say is okay. It's not okay with me. It's not okay with me to tell families in this state that if you want to come home from the bar tonight safely to your home, it's going to cost you an extra 6%. That's unconscionable. We should not be sitting here saying, it's only 60 cents on a $10 ride. It's only $1.20 on a $20 ride. Those are dollars that can pay for a gallon of milk. Those are dollars that can help make sure that your kids got new shoes to go out in the snow with. So don't come down here and talk about 6%. It's only 6%. It is 6% when the people at work are not going to get a 6% raise. So let's be clear. If what you're trying to do is protect someone, find the best way to do it without burdening that person, without burdening the gig economy, without burdening a small business person. Period.
Is there further discussion? Seeing none. Representative Bockenfeld.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. One final point that I would like to make. In part of my professional career, I was in banking. I was a special asset lender, and I specialized in small business. And let me tell you what kills small business. It's not a small incremental increase on their expenses. It's a combination during inflationary times of many small increases that eventually end up being substantial dollars, to the point that it gets that business into trouble. And when they get into trouble financially, that was where I came in and had to work with these business owners to try to restore their business. Folks, those small incremental costs become a death by 1,000 paper cuts to a small business. These are individuals who took the risk and took their personal savings to make an investment to be self-employed. And we create an unlevel playing field when all the legal minds in this Judiciary Committee couldn't agree that what this bill was trying to do was really doing what it was saying it was doing. This bill passed on a partisan basis, 7-4. It passed because they wanted to push it to a second reading. Hopefully the bill could be fixed, but it's not fixed. And we'll probably pass it out of here and send it to the Senate. This bill is not ready for prime time. This bill hurts small business. This bill kills small business by 1,000 paper cuts. I'm asking for a no vote.
Representative Soper.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I did just want to make one final comment. How many of you have been to the U.S. Supreme Court in Washington, D.C., to the building? Have you ever looked up and read what the words are above the court? Those words say, equal justice under the law. What this bill does is it creates two different standards in Colorado law, where a victim in the exact same situation is treated differently. That is not equality, and that is not equal justice under the law. If the victim is in an Uber or Lyft ride under this bill, they would be protected. However, if the victim is riding in a taxi for the exact same fact pattern, they would not be protected. I want to leave you with this one final thought, members. We should not leave Coloradans vulnerable in one particular commercial ride versus another commercial ride. We should either protect everyone in the gap or look at a different way of doing it. And I would encourage the sponsor to step back and to think about readdressing how this bill is written. Thank you.
Seeing no further discussion, the question before us is the passage of House Bill 1089 as amended. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, no? No. The ayes have it. The bill passes. Majority Leader Esgar.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move to lay over House Bill 1044 until tomorrow.
Seeing no objection, the bill will be laid over as requested by the Majority Leader. Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move the committee rise and report.
Seeing no objection, the committee will rise and report.
House will come back to order. Mr. Shebel, please read the report of the Committee of the Whole.
Mr. Speaker, your Committee of the Whole begs leave to report it has under consideration the following attached bills, being the second reading thereof, and make the following recommendations thereon. House Bill 1034, House Bill 1046 as amended, House Bill 1089 as amended, House Bill 1090 passed on second reading, order engrossed and placed on the calendar for third reading and final passage. Senate Bill 13 as amended, Senate Bill 17 passed on second reading, order and revised and placed on the calendar for third reading and final passage. House Bill 1044 laid over until February 18, 2022.
Representative Kennedy. Members, you have heard the motion. There are no amendments at the desk. The question before us is the adoption of the report of the Committee of the Whole. Mr. Shebel, please open the machine, and members, please proceed to vote, except if you're online, because that's like a daunting stack of votes. Just joking. You guys ready? Let's start with, oh, there's a photo that I'm not sure. Oh, there's a couple photos up there that I don't recognize. Representative Neville, how do you vote?
No.
Representative Neville votes no. Representative Williams, how do you vote?
No.
Representative Williams votes no. Representative Pico, how do you vote?
No.
Representative Pico votes no. Assistant Majority Leader or Minority Leader Geithner, how do you vote?
No.
Representative Geithner votes no. Representative Van Winkle, how do you vote?
No.
Representative Van Winkle votes no. Representative Sandridge, how do you vote?
No.
Representative Sandridge votes no. Representative Larson, how do you vote?
No.
Representative Larson votes no. Madam Speaker Pro Tem Benavides, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Benavides votes yes. Representative Tipper, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Tipper votes yes. Representative Exum, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Exum votes yes. Representative Ricks, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Ricks votes yes. Representative Ortiz, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Ortiz votes yes. Representative Burnett, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Burnett votes yes. Representative Judah, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Judah votes yes. Representative Hooten, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Hooten votes yes. Representative Hanks is excused. Please close the machine. With 41 aye votes, 23 no votes, and 1 excuse, the report of the Committee of the Whole is adopted. That brings us to announcements and introductions. I have two quick ones. Representative Lindsay will replace Representative Weissman on Energy and Environment for today only. Representative Froelich will replace Representative Woodrow on State, Civic, Military, and Veterans Affairs Committee for today only. Any other announcements or introductions? Representative Kennedy.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, members of State Civic, Military, and Veterans Affairs. We already announced the lineup for today, but I just wanted to let you know because the debate lasted a long time, let's get over there right away so we can start committee. Thank you.
Representative Byrd.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Finance will meet at 11:45.
Representative Kipp and Basenecker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Just wanted to welcome ASCSU, our student government folks from Fort Collins, CSU, who are here today.
Oh, they're up there.
Look, they're up there. Okay. We weren't sure if they were here yet due to the roads and the snow and all that stuff, but these are dedicated leaders in our community. We're so glad they could be here with us today. We support your work and look forward to talking with you.
Hear, hear. I just spoke to many of them, and I couldn't agree more. The future is bright. Majority Leader Escar.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Also, CSU Pueblo's student government was here as well. So I don't know if they're in the gallery, if they're out and about looking at committees, but I wanted to welcome them as well.
Let the record reflect that we are welcoming them as well. Any other announcements or introductions? Seeing none. Majority Leader Escar.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move to lay over the balance of the calendar until tomorrow, February 18th.
Seeing no objection, the balance of the calendar will be laid over until tomorrow, February 18th. Majority Leader Escar.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that the House stand in recess until later today.
Seeing no objection, the House will stand in recess until later today.